I've had the pleasure of working with Ella for 15 years this year. Where does the time go? And we've got a very special evening for you today. We're going to have two incredible artists, Julia Miranda and John Clark Jr., aka JDC Kappa, who Ella co-wrote the song Heart to Heart with, following a call out to young people in New York to write a new song with her. Really inspired by her first song being performed publicly when she was only 14 when she wrote the song. So after many years, she felt it was the right time to collaborate with these incredible young people. They're both 17.
Pretty tough act to follow.
Oh, I don't think I can.
Well, we're going to try. So the next 30 minutes, Ella and I are going to be in conversation, and I'm going to take my own route through the landscape of Ella, and hope to make you discover what makes her such an inspiring artist. Ella Spira MBE, not a small honor to be bestowed by King Charles III in 2021, 22?
Yeah, it was 2021, I think.
2021. So really amazing. And this was only one of the achievements in her career that, while starting quite some time ago, Ella left school at 16, went on to produce music, but also 15 years ago create Sisters Grimm with Pietra Milo-Pittman, former Royal Ballet dancer Pietra Milo-Pittman, not a small achievement either. And then over the following 15 years, you created live performances that toured the world. It took you to Dubai in 2020, where a small world event made you slightly pivot your work and spend more time painting. And this is what we're going to discover also through our conversation tonight. But let's start a bit with music, because we're here in Carnegie Hall, the home of music. So my first question is, why do this retrospective here, now? Why this moment? Why this place here in New York?
Okay, that's a lot of big questions, but I suppose let's start with why here and why now, and why this retrospective, and kind of what we wanted to say. Now, I suppose Pietra and I, having had the journey together that we've had for 15 years, it felt like with everything that has happened over the last couple of years with the pandemic, and how Pietra and I have kind of found new ways to reinvent how we can find that purpose and that meaning in the productions and the projects that we work on in slightly different ways, whilst we were unable to put the live shows up. And I really feel very, very proud of the way that we have managed to continue to have impact and tell the stories of the cultures that we have been lucky enough to collaborate with. It in a slightly different way, and that's what this is about. And kind of why this venue, I think it again feels like it really reflects how Pietra and I met, and that we do seem to always find ourselves drawn towards kind of bridging live music, ballet and visual art, and whether that comes together in one of our live productions, or whether it comes together in a music video, or whether it comes together in visual art, that is the constant, and then fold in what I really wanted to do with collaborating with young people for the first time. That felt like it was so in line with what Pietra and I are all about, and was kind of important to me personally too. So this venue, this space, feels perfect for all of those things.
Now, you said something that I need to pick up on right away. So you were talking about collaborating with different cultures. This is something that is central to your practice as an artist, be it music composer, painter. And I want to start our journey from a seminal moment in South Africa, where you wrote Inala with Joseph Shabalala. So please tell us the story of that collaboration, because it really launched your career in Sisters Graham.
Yeah, so Inala was massively important in lots of ways. And probably maybe starting with what the impetus for it was is a good starting point. We really wanted to create a new space for more diversity, that would be diversity in terms of cultural diversity and diversity in terms of art forms, and doing it through collaboration. And for us it was absolutely central to want to have world music sitting alongside ballet, but also kind of through a slightly developed, different, new, unique language. And Joseph, the late Joseph Shabalala, who through every single choice he made musically was pushing boundaries and creating change. And I was so honoured that he would co-write with me. I was pretty young, and it was the first time that they had co-written with a woman, and it was the first time that they had written solely with the piano. Other instrumentation came into it, but our starting point was piano and vocals, and they're an a cappella group. So, everything about that could have not worked, but it really, really worked. And I think the reason now, with hindsight, the reason I believe it worked as well as it did was because of our intention. And because that aligned with Joseph's desire to see more change, to see music forging a way forwards to bring people together more. And that is absolutely what we've done every step of the way with Inala, from every time we put it up as a show to the social impact programs that we fold in around it. So we have young people that we allocate tickets at every single show, that we then bring them in, we give them kind of the education of seeing the different jobs by allowing them to come in before the show starts. So we're kind of continuing, I like to see it as we're continuing Joseph's legacy, even whilst he's not here. That's how I see Inala.
And I think we might be able to see Inala performed again in 2024.
Yeah, we're really hoping to be able to relaunch Inala in the West End, in line with the 30 years of South African democracy, and in honour of Joseph and the role that he played, because it's my belief that the Paul Simon Graceland album played a part in getting that last push to break apartheid. And so, I see Joseph as being really important, and I think this show honours him and continues that story, I think.
I'm going to jump around a little bit, so I'm forewarning you. I want to go from South Africa and travel a few years forward and land in the UAE, because I see this as another pivotal moment. This is a pivotal moment where your career as a visual artist picks up. It's also the location of an amazing collaboration with DB Gad, and there's something quite interesting about the Muslim, Egyptian, and the Jewish, British songwriter collaborating to write this song in the UAE. So lots to talk about, but tell us a bit what happened in the UAE, when you went there, why you had to change your activity there.
Yeah, being in the UAE was not what we expected, really, on so many levels. We were there because we were developing an Arab World show with Dubai Opera and for Expo 2020. All of that disappeared. And being in the UAE was complicated for lots of reasons, but this amazing relationship with DB flourished and became probably my second kind of most significant collaborative relationship. And on the face of it, there's lots of reasons why that shouldn't work. similar to my relationship with Joseph, I would say, actually. But it was so magic and so perfect. He's a rapper, he's Egyptian, he's a Muslim man, I'm British, I'm a different style of musician, I'm Jewish, all of these things could mean, there's nothing right, but anything that should have created divides almost brought us closer. And his family supported it, everything about that was really significant. And as we were kind of developing our musical language together, we started to work on music videos together, and that led to then also the incorporation of things that allowed young people to come into the frame as well, which I think we'll talk about. And it also then perhaps brought... I had never wanted to commercialise my visual art output before, but the pandemic made me rethink that. And so the beginning of that, in a way, was actually folding them into our music videos. And that was almost in itself a bit of a collaboration with DB2. And it became about wanting to find a way to articulate the messaging that we wanted for the show, which was about kind of celebrating nature and bringing people back to connecting with the natural landscape that is very easy to forget about, and in certain territories it's even more easy to forget about. And that we started to do through the paintings, which is my go-to anyway, really. And it gave me more intention, more direction, more deliberation in my painting too.
So you do come from a family of visual artists, actually. So both your mother and your father are painters. They teach as well. Do you think that you steered clear from being a visual artist because it was like, I'm not going to do what mum and dad are doing? Or was there something else? Or the calling of music was stronger?
I think there probably was a little bit of not wanting to follow them. And I remember being 5 and doing monoprints in the garden with my mum while she was working on a big piece for the West of England Royal Academy. And that's not what most 5-year-olds spend their time doing. But it was always a massive part of our life. I've never bought a card for anybody. I always do a painting for my nearest and dearest. It has been a massive part of what I have done. I probably did rebel a bit. I was a rebel all the way through. And probably steering away from visual art as a kind of an output as a career choice was perhaps pushing against that a little bit. And my grandma was musical, and so I was also very, very close to her, and I probably followed music part because of her as well.
So we've started talking a bit about technique and painting, so let's go there a little bit more. You have a very special brand of painting. This is very much plein air painting. You paint in situ. So like the Impressionists, you paint in the landscape, you go there, you capture the moment, which leads you to impossible situations, like going to Japan to paint the Jomonsuji tree. So tell us a bit more about this. And while you do, tell us a bit about your technique, the painting, the way you apply paint.
So I never sketch, and I don't really do forward planning, and that's quite a deliberate thing. I have ideas, but they're more vague. That's probably where things are a bit more abstract. I don't like to have too many preconceived ideas. It's actually the same with writing music. A lot of it comes from the same place for me. So when I'm there in situ, I'm responding to what's in front of me and feeling like what I always am a bit over the top with how many tools I have, but I will use what feels appropriate and right for the light, for the emotion, for what is the significant thing that I think I want to try to communicate about that piece. Jomonsuji is a really good example because that was one of the hardest things that Pietro and I or one of our most complicated journeys in order for me to be able to paint that tree. And there is a good reason why hardly anyone else has done it, because it is difficult. We had to we left at 4:30 a.m. in the morning. It was absolutely chucking it down with rain. It was dark for the first 4 hours-ish or something. And we had to, it's a 24-kilometre round walk, and it's like a 700-metre climb as well, and it's cold. So, and we had all of the sort of painting studio and some film equipment and stuff with us. So we had over 15 kilograms of luggage with us. And it's a proper climb. There's no roads. There's no nothing. It was you know, it's quite a physically challenging ordeal to get to that place. But I am so pleased we did it, because to be in the presence of a tree that is one of a handful of trees that is thought to be 5,000 years old means so much. And it was actually incredibly humbling, I think, to be able to tell that, or try to get across what that feeling was like, to remind us all to keep perspective and also to protect nature, because it's so important that those things get the chance to live the life that they deserve. You know, so to have been able to go and do that and to respond to that was really significant, and is perhaps one of the most special paintings, I think, in terms of what it represented. And the reason we went there was in part, well, mostly in search of that tree, but also we had collaborated with Kodo, which is the nation's taiko drum group, in 2017, I think it was, and that was on Sado Island, which is another really significant island with very particular Japanese culture and Japanese history. And so we kind of almost wanted to honour that sort of experience of having been to different islands, but without going to exactly the same place, going to somewhere else that would have something slightly different. So we've had this kind of dual experience. And in the score downstairs, there's parts of Kodo that are woven in through the score. So the exhibition score has pieces of music from every single show that we've developed. So it's kind of this bringing together of the music and the visuals.
So you're saying that this was one of the hardest thing to do. I can think of another one, which is pretty hard. So we're going to go 100 feet below water in a submarine.
150, actually.
150, there you go, even harder. So why did you have to go on a submarine and off the coast of Hawaii to paint water?
So I've become more and more kind of preoccupied with my brother's career, actually, who is an oceanographer. And seeing his journey, he's 10 years younger than me, so seeing his journey from literally being 8 and telling me about environmental ideas that he had for cars and stuff, to going into becoming an oceanographer in one of the best oceanography research departments in the world. And he went to Antarctica, and they're deploying all these amazing pieces of equipment all the time, and he shares a lot of it with me. I've become more and more fascinated with it, and I suppose I feel like I've been privileged enough to have that slightly deeper insight, perhaps, into what oceanography even is. And I understand it to be so massively important. And scientists, bless them, aren't always the best at communicating with each other, let alone other people. So I feel like it's kind of art's role to try to communicate that and spread the word of the incredible research and work that they're doing. And that's what I want to achieve through oceanography. So those pieces are very much about capturing the water at this stage. So it was important to get beneath the water to have that view in the, under the surface itself. So that's why we went to Hawaii to go on a submarine. And it was that was also one of the most bonkers things we've ever done, because to get those pieces of glass into the submarine was difficult. Painting with enamel paint onto glass is almost impossible. It's completely inflexible. And when I say it's impossible, it's not impossible, but it's just, you have to be so deliberate about it. It's on, it's on. That's it. You can't start messing around with it, really, and it's just fixed. It's got some sort of toxic type stuff, which makes being in an enclosed environment complicated. So it was a big challenge. But then we've also started developing relationships with other scientists as well. So the lighting behind those panels is actually taken from a sonar wave that Ocean X shared with us. that is to do with the research that they have done. So at every level, we're kind of layering in the science into what this piece is. And this is the first stage of this. We're hoping to be able to open it as develop it even further and open it in New Zealand, we hope, next year.
And some of the oceanography enamels were painted in Australia. And you were in Australia for a big project that you had launched in the UAE, but you ran also there, called Art in Nature. And this is a project which, for me, really captures the importance of being an agent in this fight for the environment and trying to make people realize where they live, and in particular young people, to get them out there and just notice the world around them. So can you talk to us a little bit about Art in Nature?
Yeah, so Art in Nature kind of came from actually one of the music videos that we produced with the paintings that I've done, where Pietro and I deliberately sought out the natural landscapes of the UAE that sometimes get a little bit forgotten about. And through doing that and through the response that we got from that, we felt like we needed to give young people a way in to go and have their own discovery of those kind of landscapes, and with the hope that also then they would take a step further in their care for their own environment, and maybe even consider for some environmental sciences as a career choice. So that there was a kind of bigger ambition even within that, which is that we would really love to see some young people share ideas that could actually come to fruition and could maybe be a new solution to something within environmental sciences. So we launched that in 2021, at the beginning of 2021, and that went really well. We had amazing participation from young people all across the UAE. We had over 1,000 submissions. The music video got 3.5 million views, and we'd like to think that certain things that we were drawing attention to within that, we've played a part in now some of those things being more protected, and not just protected, but other things starting to happen a bit more in the UAE, like engagement with fair trade. So that was really important there. And then we ran it in Australia as part of a bilateral government science agency program, and we were able to dig in even further into the actual environmental sciences, into the jobs, into this thing of wanting to kind of add to the pathway for young people into environmental sciences and care for the natural environment.
I'm going to pause here with my questions and give you the opportunity to ask a few questions. So, any questions for the audience? The young man in the third row.
Thank you for this wonderful exhibit. You have a great ability to create art through several mediums, photography, music, painting. Can you talk about the creative process behind them, or the differences and similarities between them?
Yeah, absolutely. And it sounds like a probably strange thing to say, but for me, they both come from exactly the same place. So when I create painting, it's because I've got something I want to say. When I'm writing a piece of music, I'm usually doing it in collaboration because I've got something I want to say. And I think what I want to communicate is a feeling of togetherness and a feeling of everything for me. I don't just paint something because it's pretty. That's absolutely fine for people to do that, obviously, but it's not my way. What drives me is a desire it's needing to be part of social change, and it's needing to say something, and it's wanting to create something that gives people a way into, I hope, or some people, a way into what I'm trying to spotlight and what I'm trying to say. So I think in the end, actually, where everything, the seed of where everything comes from, be it music or visual art, is the same, really.
We had another question. Yes.
Hi.
A black.
Hi. So my question is kind of in two parts. The first part is, you've traveled to a lot of countries. What country have you most connected to? That felt the most Ella. And the second part is, in our identity of kind of traveling around and being global, you have to be quite adaptive. How do you identify in that role of kind of being everywhere and nowhere at once?
Oh, good question, Ashley. Ashley is from South Africa, and Ashley was in Inala from the very beginning, so she knows quite a lot. But actually, South Africa is somewhere that I very much feel massively connected to, largely probably because of Joseph and because of Inala, and because of what we wanted to say, and I still feel like what we wanted to say with Inala is as relevant today as it was when we began. So there's definitely a sense of, a feeling of home in South Africa for sure. And I have to say, in New York, and I think that a large part of that is probably the diversity in New York, diversity, cultural diversity, and also artistic diversity. I think that's really important. And it's been interesting for me completely letting go of the idea of a home, which I have done more recently, although I really did probably more like in 2016, 2017. And I just, letting go of having any singular base was even more freeing for me. And because I think for me it's a connection with people and a connection with global social change. That's what gives me a sense of home, I think. Yeah.
We have a question at the very front. We're just going to bring a mic.
Thank you very much to be here. I don't know about, but my question is already answered, maybe, for the last question that you answered. Thank you again.
Okay, thank you very much.
I imagine your brother helped facilitate perhaps, but I mean, I'm just curious about the conversation. Can I come on your submarine and do some painting? I mean, how did that happen?
That was a feat of engineering from Pietra, who makes all the crazy ideas kind of come to life if they are in any way, if there's something in them. I probably have to ask her to answer that one. It was unexpected, I think, from their part, and the conversations we have going on with OceanX and other scientists, I think everyone is always quite surprised with where we take things and how we actually want to kind of really involve people. See, I see that role with the scientists as being as much of a collaborative relationship as I do with my musical collaborators, really. But yeah, that was a bit of a wild one, and that was certainly unexpected for them too. And I think the pilot was really on board with it. He was like, let's push it to go further and let's go deeper, and yeah.
I think what has always struck me with you, Ella, is that you've got no fear, and never do you say, oh, but if I did this, and if it doesn't work, or if I fail. I mean, these are thoughts that just don't seem to occur to you. And you're also, your risk-taking very much is expressed in the collaborations that you have with other artists. So the one that for me has been quite important and is the collaboration you had with Rebecca Toh, who took the photos. So you will have seen a few photographs downstairs. It's the inner landscape of Ella. And Ella just gave a carte blanche to Rebecca to snap her. And I think it was very revealing. And you have to be very brave to do something. And I think Rebecca is here. Where is she? She might be hiding. There she is, at the back. So it was quite a special relationship. How do you make it work? Because there's got to be a bit of magic involved.
I think when it comes to collaborations, that relationship is either there or it's not. And there's a magic between two people in my experience so far that happens where it's almost like you enter into this sort of slightly different plane of field together, and it's a communication that almost almost no one else is quite privy to, but then people do become privy to it because they become privy to the output of that special relationship. And I absolutely had it with Rebecca, and I was not expecting to find a collaborator in Singapore, and I was certainly not expecting to find it in a photographer, and it was the first time I'd collaborated with a photographer. And I just knew immediately, like, she's an artist. She's an artist, and I would be comfortable with completely letting her in. And it was a very poignant time for me. I'd lost my grandma, and we lost somebody else in the family that we were very close to, and so it was a tough time emotionally. But through kind of that relationship and that collaborative relationship with another artist, I felt like there was probably something to say about being in that state and being an artist and being in that state, which, you know, everybody loses someone, and everyone, we all do day-to-day things as well. And I think that was part of what I felt like, well, maybe we can address this actually together. And I think we really did, and that was really special.
So I'll take one more question at the front.
Thank you, Pete.
Hello, thank you for this beautiful moment. Congratulations. I have 2 questions. The first one is you travel a lot and there is very beautiful diversity in your paintings, but we don't see people in the paintings. We can imagine them in the Osaka nights and in Dubai, in South Africa, but we don't see them. We know they are there. We are there in some place, but you have the choice to them. But people, there are not fish in the water. And my second question is also about the choice about these young people for the show. This that you were inspired by Rimbaud, because when we are 17 we are not serious. But the poem of Arthur Rimbaud, the French poet, he said when we was 17 we are not serious. So you chose the 17 age with thinking of Rimbaud. What's another choice? Or that's for the commitment of these guys have about music and also the globality they represent.
Okay, so to answer the first one, and thank you for very good questions. The first one, I think I kind of veer away from putting people in because I sometimes feel that makes it about too much about those specific people more than the landscape, and that is probably where my environmental leanings and preoccupation comes to the fore even more in my paintings, really. And so that's why I suppose I don't really feature people so much in them.
But there's someone who often features in your painting. There's a person who's often there, and there's a very special relationship.
There is, and that's so the only person I feature in the paintings is Pietra, and that is because I think we go on these, we're on this life journey together. You know, she is by all intents and purposes my life partner, and we create a safe space together. We create that safe space for us to be really brave and do these mad things together because we want to say something, because we want to be part of social change, because we want to inspire other people to, I don't know, be part of social change too. And I think also the way that I put Pietra, or the way that Pietra features in those paintings it's about her, but it's about her in the environment that we're in. So it's still kind of more about that environment and that safe space and that bubble. Yeah, I hope that
And then there was the question about the 17-year-olds, and I think that's a lovely question because what a moment for these 2 artists who came on stage.
Yeah.
Why did you have to do this?
So I was actually supposed to pick one person to collaborate with, but in true me kind of style, I couldn't, and I just knew that bringing these 2 together would create something really special. They didn't know each other before. The call out was actually for 14 to 18-year-olds, and they just so happened to both be 17. And I loved everything about these 2, really. I liked the difference in their styles. I liked the difference in their cultural backgrounds. I obviously loved their talent, which came through from the beginning, and I liked their attitude. They've got a very professional attitude for 17-year-olds, and I like how brave they both are in different ways, and that completely translated into the room when we were creating the song together. Like, they were both sort of not challenging in a bad way, but encouraging each other to try different things. John thinks he's not a singer, by the way. John, you are. But this is the first time he's sung in a song that he's written. You know, and Julia, it was the first time she tried melodic rap. You know, so like everything kind of, we did create that same environment for new things to happen together, and it was just a coincidence that they're both 17, but to me it feels very kind of poignant actually and important that at 17 this is happening for them.
I think it's been amazing to listen to you, Ella, and I'm very privileged to be following you and following your career. I think so many people talk the talk, but fewer walk the talk. You're out there trying to make a change. And I think it's inspiring to all of us. 152 years ago, exactly to the day, in a capital city, a few thousand miles from here in Paris, was the first meeting of the Commune. And the Communards were the French revolutionaries who decided to change the world. They had lots of women as part of the Communards. They wanted to bring a new world. They abolished the death penalty. And it was an inspiration. It was a revolution. So I'm hoping that tonight we are a meeting of Ella's Commune, and we gather together and we try and make change. We try and walk that talk, and you can be part of the journey. So the artwork is on display downstairs. It's available for sale, or you can buy prints as well. And this is not just about owning a beautiful piece of art, a unique piece of art. It's about empowering that journey of change. So thank you so much for being part of it tonight, for being with us. And thank you for just, putting yourself out there and risking everything every day.
Thank you.
The exhibition is still on.